Lloyd and Javier arrive at Namsan Tower, and the tracking dog provided by the King of Dragons starts barking faster. Lloyd places the dog near the fence where the love locks are hung. He asks the dog if that is the key or aura. Then Lloyd tries to make the dog smell one of the locks on the fence, but there is no reaction, and Lloyd realizes that this lock is not the one he's looking for. However, when he puts the dog near the fence again, the dog's reaction starts to change, barking even faster. Lloyd starts cursing, saying that now he is completely sure the hidden material, key or aura, is in the fence. He sighs deeply and tells Javier that the fence itself is the key or aura. Lloyd thinks it was probably dropped in this area during construction and ended up beside the fence, eventually transforming into it. He silently curses the sleepy-headed Dragon King, thinking that the king should have sent it to a better location. Javier asks Lloyd what all the things hanging on the fence are. Lloyd replies that they are called love locks and explains that Namsan Tower is a famous tourist spot. Couples come here, place a lock on the fence, and promise eternal love to each other. Javier comments that they're in a tricky situation since it would be hard to take the fence with so many people around. He asks Lloyd if they should hide somewhere until midnight. Lloyd says he doesn't know what to do. Javier looks at his young master, noticing that Lloyd is staring at something. Lloyd is actually looking at the people enjoying the view at Namsan Tower. He remembers when he was a child, sitting on his father's shoulders, excitedly watching the beautiful view from the tower, with both his parents happily together. Lloyd grabs a lock and tells Javier that this isn't just any kind of metal. It represents memories and promises. The lock might symbolize that when someone truly misses another person, they might meet again at the tower. Javier remains silent, listening to his master. They wait until the sky turns dark, as it is already night, but there are still many people enjoying the view. Javier tells Lloyd that he's somewhat glad he came here. Lloyd asks him why. Javier says he was really curious about what kind of person Lloyd was in his previous world. Lloyd asks him why he says that when Javier had claimed not to care who Kim Suho really was, as long as he could save the Frontera territory. Javier replies that it doesn't really matter, but he was just curious. Lloyd tells him that's more like it, since all they have is a business relationship. He warns Javier not to cross any lines. Lloyd looks at the people placing more locks on the fence. He starts to question what he should do about the situation. He watches a couple gazing romantically at each other, and his face shows a hint of empathy for those in love. He thinks to himself that despite his mission, he doesn't want to destroy other people's memories just because he has to. That warm moment of placing the lock, the feeling of waiting to treasure each other for eternity. Lloyd, who has a crazy, legendary, and mythical rank of beauty and face, is cursed by being single for eternity. He has lived to lifetimes, and yet his fate remains the same, forever alone. His expression changes, and as he watches the couples in love, he thinks about how these locks represent memories people want to hold on to. Yet, he's jealous, for he's never experienced the simple touch of a girl's hand. His envy grows until the veins in his head begin to bulge, driven by frustration. What a cruel life for our main character. Lloyd calls Javier, who looks at him and responds. Lloyd, who is idolized by demons in hell, begins to reveal his true colors. He pulls off his mask and tells Javier that from now on, he's quitting being human. Javier sweats heavily and asks why Lloyd is suddenly so angry. He has no idea what triggered this outburst. But Javier can only smile, as he had expected this reaction from Lloyd all along. With a face that could scare even the most terrifying demons, a bone dragon, a deadly mage, and even the Dragon King, Lloyd's true self emerges. He smirks and tells Javier that they need to take that hideous thing and go. Javier acknowledges his master's order. For Javier, this is the look that suits Lloyd or Kim Suho best. Lloyd, still fuming, walks past the couple, shoving them aside. He tells them to get lost, claiming he needs to inspect the fence. Both Javier and Lloyd prepare to grab the fence welded to the tower. They brace themselves, ready to pull the fence full of love locks. Lloyd's face is full of veins, a face that it likes when you are about to take a dump and you are stuck in a traffic and a cold breeze of air suddenly passes by that makes all the hair in your body stands up because of it. This is the face of someone like him. He shouts as he uses all his strength to pull the fence, and after full force effort, both of them manage to pull it off. The couple watches in shock, sweating from the two men's audacity. Lloyd, still smirking, starts to ask those around him why they put so many locks on the fence, complaining that it made it difficult for them to conduct an inspection. This bitter, perpetually single man tells the crowd that once these couples break up, they'll probably rush back here to remove the locks. He claims he's just doing them a favor by removing the locks in advance, making their lives easier. Just then, someone calls out to Lloyd, stopping him in his tracks. This made Lloyd stop to look at them, and he is somewhat shaken from what he saw. It's the gold lover officer, shouting at Lloyd and Javier, telling them they aren't actually fence maintenance workers. These officers posing dramatically like some sort of Power Rangers or Volts 5. The three officers shout that their thunder judgment will exterminate evil. Two of the officers strike weird poses while the third officer, obsessed with gold, pulls out two stun guns hidden on his pants. For some reason, there's a lightning effect when the stun guns are revealed, like they were throwing some advanced weapon 200 years in the future. These officers must clearly admire Tengen for his flashy style. Then the gold-loving officer fire the stun guns. Javier quickly reacts, removing his jacket and using its insulating properties to block and parry the attack. The crowd is shocked, as if witnessing a scene straight out of a K-drama or Hollywood movie. The girls in the audience gasp, shouting, "Oh my goodness!" as they catch a glimpse of Javier's handsome face, dubbing him the fencing thief. Some even start taking pictures. Maybe these girls' faucets below start to get wet and spurt out upon seeing Javier's face for the first time. Perhaps their hearts start fluttering as they post on Instagram, calling the fence thief in Namsan Tower super hot but adding a hashtag about his innocent looks. A hashtag of handsome face means being innocent. But why does a handsome face mean innocence? If that were true, then Lloyd, with his legendary looks, must be the biggest sinner in the world. Lloyd and Javier run, carrying the fence that now feels even heavier due to the many locks on it. Both are panting, as they have no mana left in their bodies. The flashy officers chase them, looking like members of the Avengers. They told Lloyd and Javier to give up because all of Korea was chasing them on social media. Javier asked Lloyd if he should get rid of them. Lloyd, who had decided to quit being human, was still human after all, as he told Javier to let the officers be. He smiled like a demon while running, saying that since they were trained in labor and swordsmanship, they were faster than the officers. Then both of these crazy guys started to speed up. They used a speed launch. The gold-loving officer could only feel annoyed because the two crazy guys they were chasing were too fast. One of the police officers told the gold-loving officer that he thought both Lloyd and Javier must know the area very well. The gold-loving officer told his fellow officer not to worry because if they searched for a handsome fence thief on the internet, they would be able to find them in no time. And the police officer was right. One netizen posted a picture of both of them with a caption that read, "Javier might be crazy, but he's still super hot." If this combination of super handsome Javier and super ugly Lloyd goes together, they will really stand out. They are like hot and cold water. The officer, who saw the post on his phone, said the fencing thieves were near a gate in the area and told his fellow officer they needed to go there. The long-haired guy said those thieves were just in the area. The gold-loving officer assured them that they had almost caught up to those crazy thieves, and there weren't many places to hide around there. Both Lloyd and Javier started taking off the clothes they had stolen. Javier called his master Lloyd. Then Lloyd, confused, asked him what it was. Javier asked him if he didn't feel sad about leaving his hometown just like that. Javier told his master that he could buy him some time from the officers so he could stay in Seoul a little longer. Lloyd just smiled and told Javier that he didn't plan to stay longer since he had already met his family. He looked up at the sky and told Javier that he did have someone else he would like to meet in Seoul, but he planned to meet that person only when that person wanted to meet him as well. That person was actually his best friend, his rich friend, who was now working in construction, working hard and covered in sweat. When the head ordered him to head over, he replied that he would do so if someone needed his help. The supervisor was confused because although Kim Suho's best friend was a diligent worker, the supervisor didn't know why he always made faces like that. He was always smirking. Going back, one man who was perhaps jealous of Javier started telling the police that the thieves were getting naked and putting on a show. But his girlfriend stopped him, saying the handsome guy was innocent. The gold-loving officer thanked the guy for telling them about it. But of course, since these officers wanted to be flashy and flamboyant in every way, they started forming a formation before showing up completely, telling Lloyd and Javier to give up. However, the gold-loving officer stopped and started sweating, alarmed by what he saw. Lloyd and Javier had already left, and the clothes were on the side, leaving only a note. There are two types of people in this world, one who folds their clothes, and the other who leaves them as they are, like a 5-year-old child. Which do you think is from Javier, and which is from Lloyd? The portal was still large, but it slowly shrank until nothing could be seen. The only thing left were the gold chunks with a note saying, "Thanks for your hard work." The officer could only start to question where on earth those two thieves came from and who the hell they were. Both Lloyd and Javier were able to make it back to the estate. They were both panting heavily from continuously running throughout the night, escaping the officers and Javier's paparazzi. But Lloyd was silent this time, and only his deep breathing could be heard. Javier glanced at his master, but Lloyd started shaking and making a groaning sound like he was in pain. Javier looked worried about his master, which was evident in his eyes. But this bastard wasn't groaning in pain from leaving his birthplace. He was actually making that sound because he was holding in his laughter. He burst out laughing and shouted that it was finally over, as they had gathered all the materials. Hearing that made Javier shocked. A window popped up saying that Lloyd had already gathered the Kier Aura and obtained all the core materials for Aotearoa, or the Truth Jewel. He was given a bonus RP of 2,800, with his current RP now at 11,755. He smiled and said that whatever this restoration of fate was, he promised that he would crush it completely.